This episode, the TPK Syndrome, or DMs as the antagonist.
On Wizards of the Tower, Roleplay.
Welcome to Wizards of the Tower Roleplay. I'm Delaney.
And I'm Tom.
And in this channel, we talk everything role-playing. Tabletop, RPGs, and possibly even a little bit of computer role-playing games.
Sure.
So, today's episode, the TPK Syndrome, or...
Total Party Kill.
Or as DMs as the antagonist.
Yeah.
So, why do you think DMs like the TPK?
So, to give a little background for this story, I don't DM. All right, I'll explain to you folks later in another episode why I don't. But Delaney does. Delaney, she is quite a masterful DM.
No.
Oh yeah. And one of the things we've always encountered whenever we tell people that we play role-playing games is they always say, "Oh, really? Who DMs?" And Delaney always says, "Well, I do. I'd like to play more, but I DM." And they're always like, "Yeah, I DM too, and last night I killed all my team off."
We used to have one guy that played in our group and actually DM'd our group, and every session, which was every 2 weeks in our group, he would come in and tell us how he TPK'd one of his groups. And he played, 5 or 6 times a week.
Yeah.
And almost every game he would come in and I TPK'd, or I almost TPK'd, total party kill, the whole group.
You got to wonder why that is. And I've always wondered why you go through the effort of creating a game scenario, allowing your players to create characters, and then throw something at them that they just cannot handle, and then kill them all off. Total party kill. Why?
That's a great question. I as a DM, and we've talked a little bit about this in previous episodes, I'm not a DM that likes to be considered the antagonist. I'm there to create a story. I'm the director, the producer, the writer, the special effects person who's there, and that's my time. And if I create an adventure and kill everybody off, then
what's the point?
Nobody wants to, in reference, let's say Rogue One is the movie.
Yeah.
Okay, great movie. But there's no one surviving it.
Total party kill.
You've not seen it. Sorry, we spoiled it.
Yeah,
for you.
total party kill at the end of Rogue One, folks, just in case you haven't seen the movie.
But it's a great game.
Yeah.
But, and there may be instances as a DM that you might want to do that if that's what the situation calls for.
Yeah.
But in most situations, I find that you don't need to kill off your party. You're not there as an antagonist. You're there... you're not the enemy of the players. And some players think DMs are.
Both Delaney and I have read a couple of books about the early formations of D&D, back when Gary Gygax and Arneson and a few other folks were creating the games. The DM wasn't called a DM back then. The DM was called a referee.
Yeah.
Essentially, the DM or the referee was there to,
direct the game.
Yeah, direct the game, adjudicate game rules, and basically keep people on track so they could keep going through the motions of the game and keep following the different pathways. I prefer to have a DM who's more like that rather than a DM who deliberately sets up a scenario where they're trying to kill you, and only by the skin of your teeth do you make it out alive.
We had an adventure path that we both played in that was almost a total party kill. I think there were 3 of us that survived out of, I think there were 8 or 9 players. That was the pirate adventure.
Oh my goodness, yes.
There were 3 of us. 3! And I was one of the survivors, but my character was at negative, and when they hauled her back to the ship, and then there was 2 other players.
My character was killed.
most everybody. I think, like I said, we had 8 or 9 players at that time.
So we'll talk a little bit more about this, when it comes to player deaths. But here's what happened. The GM decided they were going to throw a bunch of swarms against level 2 and 3 characters who did not have area of effect spells.
I think we're level 2.
Yeah, we were pretty low. And even though we had some fairly good fighters, we didn't have a healer or a healer worth a darn. Sometimes we don't have healers worth a darn. But we were on an island, and we got hit with rat swarm,
wasp swarm, and then there was a plague fly swarm
and
that would turn you into a zombie.
Yeah, like a bot fly swarm. Okay. Now, if you've ever played the game, you understand that it's really difficult to do damage against swarms if you don't have area effect spells, like a fireball, burning hands, exploding, some kind of fire, flaming sphere, some kind of frost damage, something that you can take up an area, like an area around, your perimeter,
well,
like this.
Even if it's 10 by 10 or 20 by 20 or whatever, 10 by, as long as you can affect the swarm, then you've got something that can help take them out. Exactly. But I think all we had were torches and a few
alchemist fire flasks, which didn't do much good.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing about swarms: they move as you move, so you can't really outrun them. I mean, as fast as you move, that's how fast they move.
Right.
And they essentially ate us up. And I had put a lot of effort into my character. My character was the ship's cook on a pirate ship, a great character. I love that character. And I have to say, I was a little resentful at the end of that game.
Yeah.
When most of our party died, I asked the DM pointedly, I said, why did you hit us with swarms when you knew we did not have area of effect?
The AP said so.
Yeah. We did not have area of effect spells. And he just kind of smirked and laughed a little bit. He's like, well, you could have thought your way out of it. And I was like, thought our way out of it? How are we going to think our way out of that one? Okay, you can't outrun them. Axes and knives and swords don't do any damage. We didn't have any flame effects, some torches. We were slowly getting drained and ground down by the swarm, and eventually they take you over.
So why do you think DMs brag about TPKs, with their RPGs? Why do you think that is?
I think they see it as a contest. They don't see the game as fun, as this group that everybody gets together and has fun. I think they see it as a contest. Can I kill my group off tonight? And do I get sort of a perverse thrill, kind of like, seeing a drunk person fall down the stairs or something like that. And laughing about it. And I think they get like a perverse sort of thrill.
Or possibly even the person in a shooter game that likes to go in and just blast everybody instead of working together.
Well, some people DM specifically for that. It's a matter of control. They want to take control of the game. They want to, kind of sadistically affect other players in a lot of ways. And 3, I think they like to win, always at whatever cost.
Right, and in Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder, any really RPG, it's maybe the exception of Call of Cthulhu, which that players are going to eventually go insane at the end of whatever's going on. But for the most part, in RPGs, it's not a who wins. In fact, I remember that from a long time ago when I played, and people would say, well, how do you win the game? Well, you win by surviving and by raising a level and by getting treasure and getting your own land. And, it's not a sort of winning and losing. It's accomplishment. It's like the everyday job. What is your accomplishment in your job? Is doing a job well done, or getting a promotion, or getting a raise. So it's kind of like the same. I look at it as the same way.
You solve the mystery, you accomplish the quest, you help out the poor people who need help. Okay, that's the thing about role-playing games. Most scenarios are sort of like that. I don't think a whole lot of people go into a scenario thinking, I'm going to die next time we play because I'm a level 2 character, and for some reason or another, our game master decided to throw like 50 hellhounds at us.
Yeah. Now, you kind of hit how you feel about TPKs, total party kills.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't like it. Whether I'm a player or as a DM, I'm not there as as an adversary or an antagonist to my players. I'm there as the referee, the GM, the producer, the director, to lead them down the path to get them from point A to point B, however point A to point B or C or D is, and to kind of officiate the rules. You know, if they have a question, of course, you know, I as a DM, I don't know all the rules. I try to know most of them, but you know, I referee it, and just like a referee in a game, you don't want a referee who's throwing the penalties on the other team even when they're not. Nobody wants that.
Well, yeah. But, you know, I've had so many people tell me, so many GMs tell me that they kill their whole parties off. And I always just got to ask myself, what's the point? And not only that, but how do you keep finding characters? How do you keep finding players who bring their characters to your table when they know that you're going to throw something impossible at them and you're all going to die? Don't people just kind of get tired of the whole thing and go home?
Yeah, don't you get sick and tired of always being TPK?
Always being beat down.
Right. Now, I know you work with a bunch of people who game. Do they ever talk about TPK?
They do. And usually what it is except right now, basically, the DMs I know or the GMs I know, they play 5.0. They don't play Pathfinder. And the ones who play are not very experienced DMs. You can tell just by how they talk. Their whole idea is they take the first-person shooter concept to the role-playing game. Essentially, defeat the enemy. Who's the enemy? My players.
Yeah. So
they always talk about, I'm going to bring up some new monsters and whatever. I'm going to wipe my group out tonight and see what they do.
Yeah. In fact,
great. Yay.
I think even one of our players was talking about that with his son, about TPK and you know, his whole son's party and how they had fun, or you know, to me that's not fun, but you know, I look at it, you know, kind of like I mentioned in a previous episode, how Lord of the Rings, so Boromir was the only one that really died. Gandalf, but he came back. But you know, everyone else pretty much survived. They might have had scars, they may have had mental damage or mental issues, but they all survived. But that's the kind of way, and even the Sword of Shannara books that I was a big fan of, or Conan. You know, the Conan books. Yeah, there was players, you know, characters that died in the Conan books. You know, Ballet, but Valeria didn't. And, you know, if you read the books, but not all of Conan's sidekicks, you know, always died. They, you know, it's just didn't happen.
I mean, call us old school, but I believe that the whole purpose, and this may be sort of Tolkien-esque here, the whole purpose of a quest is to come out the other side having learned something. Okay? Just like Thorin Oakenshield's speech to Bilbo at the, you know, when Thorin Oakenshield was dying and Bilbo went to see him and he said the world would be a much better place if everyone placed a great deal more value upon cheer and good food and good friends rather than gold. Okay. At the end of The Hobbit, you learn a lot. You go through the challenge of fire, and you come out on the other side of the quest, and you're changed. You're changed and transformed, but you learn something, and that's the whole idea that I see about role playing and quests. Is that's the whole purpose to do it. Not only that, but you have fun, you have adventure, and at the end you learn something. Call me old school.
Yeah, and that's maybe that's the old school approach. You know, is you're not there to kill off all your players. Once again, you're there as the referee to guide them and you know, make them feel good and success. Players are going to die. It's going to happen. And we'll hit upon that in other episodes. We hit upon that a little bit about the last one. But, you know, I try not to kill my players. I think my players kill their players, but I'm not a TPK person. And as Tom asked, have I ever fudged the dice? Yeah, because I'm not gonna TPK my group. I'm old school.
There you have it.
So with that episodes of Wizards of the Tau Roleplay, may all your adventures be epic and keep on role-playing.
Thanks, folks.